Welcome to the Builders Podcast, episode 58. Brian Bauer, CRO Agency owner, businesses that survive a pandemic, brand and conversion. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable from the trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another The Builders. Today we have a special guest, Brian Bauer. Brian and I go back a few years. We've known each other. He runs a digital marketing agency. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation today. I'm excited to dig into it. One of the things we do here on The Builders, when we first have somebody on the show, we want to get to know them a little bit. We want to learn about their journey, how they became a business person or entrepreneur, whatever you want to call yourself, and what that origin story looks like, who made you, who inspired you, all that good stuff. So without further ado, Brian, you want to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about yourself and where you're from, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you having me on here, Matt. Excited to do it. Who made me? My parents made me. So that's and I will elaborate. So I'm a third generation drummer. My grandfather was a Dixieland jazz drummer. My dad was a blues drummer, and was just kind of raised in that atmosphere. My mom was a piano teacher, so wow. Very, very kind of musical household from a pretty early age, and so I just again had a pretty natural, innate love for music, for entertainment. As I kind of grew older, I just knew very early on that, like, in some way, shape, or form, I want to work in entertainment, and I think reason being is, to me, that's what kind of makes life worth living. Are those moments and those experiences. Like my wife knows me well, not to get me like things for my birthday. I like stuff to do. So that's experiences. That's like, yeah, exactly. So it's very much like, I got my running bucket list and like of all these like things that I got to just, experience in life, because to me, that's what makes me want to get out of bed every day. Yeah. So again, early on, I kind of knew that was the path that was exciting for me. Ended up, kind of working in radio pretty early on.
Really?
I had a gig in high school that was it was actually at a political talk radio kind of thing that my friend's dad founded, and I was just like, what? I don't care what. Like, I'm not even political. I'm very intrigued. I had a bunch of comedians on it and things like that. It was pretty cool, and so that kind of gave me my start or my direction, and then ended up going to University of Maryland. So I grew up just outside of Chicago. And I was kind of the only kid around there or one of the, like, maybe two, from my area that went to University of Maryland. So we were, pretty random, but I loved it there. And I actually didn't, I decided to leave music outside of school for the most part. I minored in music, but it wasn't from a performance standpoint. I wasn't really doing much of that at school. What I did major in was psychology. Cause I, again, loved like, kind of the understanding what motivates folks and why do we want to experience these things that we experience, or why do we feel like certain music is good versus bad, and these subjective elements of just kind of how our brains function and make these decisions. And so that really intrigued me, and so helped me open up that kind of that world. And while I was in school, Facebook launched and social media became prevalent, right? And so, I got to be pretty much the first generation that got to experience that.
Yeah.
And so I had this knowledge of social media just from being an early adopter to it. Graduated and continued my work in radio, moved to New York. And even, before that, even during school, I had internships at RCA and Universal and MTV and Interscope and all these like awesome, entertainment industry companies that just gave me so much experience and just like hands-on growth that I could then apply. And so then I graduated, moved to New York, worked at a record label in their radio promotions department, where I had 15 bosses all around the country, because they were all the ones kind of going into the stations in their region, sort of, pitching our music, and I would have to coordinate all that. And it was about as, challenging as it sounds to have 15 different bosses. But but I was still playing. I was still, performing and playing music. And
oh, okay. So you were still? Were you in a band, or were you like?
I was. Yeah. Yep. So this band that I was in was so drummer, and it was killer band. I mean, it was very like late 60s, early 70s rock. We were touring, to the point where I had to quit my job. And so I decided to kind of take the plunge and go full on. And what allowed me to really do that and do that comfortably, one was the support of my family, because again, they appreciated, the music and the stuff that I was doing. Right. But also because I had grown up, in a way with social media, I could do that as a consulting thing. And I could do that from anywhere I could get an internet connection. So while I was touring and playing shows and recording records and living that lifestyle, I would also be helping to manage Facebook pages for law firms and insurance brokerages and all that kind of stuff. So it really helped. Yeah, it really helped pay the bills.
That's pretty cool. I can see you drumming, and then like I got a little work to do over here.
Exactly. So
nice.
So I was doing that for several years, and odds and ends jobs, walking dogs, things like that, to live out that dream, and it was incredible. I mean, we had charting records, and we got to the point where we were playing internationally. I played down at South by Southwest, where we connected with Elijah Wood, the actor, and he loved us. He had a label. He ended up signing us to his label. Just such a sweet guy. Really, really just a genuinely awesome guy. And so we recorded a record under his label, and then our manager, was LA based, got us to the point where he was shopping that to Jimmy Iovine at Interscope Records, who he's kind of in that Eminem, Dr. Dre world, if you're familiar with him. Yeah, pretty legendary guy. And so we ended up showcasing for Jimmy Iovine, and amazing. That was just a pretty awesome experience. The kind of the feedback that came out of that was that, the band was great, but he just didn't necessarily know how to promote us or how to market us. And so, I think that was perhaps one of the kind of the impetus or whatever that led to the devolvement of the band. And, ultimately it dissolved. And so then I while I was touring, I had played shows in Nashville and loved Nashville. And just felt this, like, kind of done with New York, but still really, very much wanted to be in the entertainment industry. Had spent time in Santa Monica, recorded a record in Santa Monica, really liked it out there as well. So it's kind of a toss up between the two, but ultimately, connected with a marketing agency in Nashville that was an entertainment marketing agency. And I was like, oh, this just
Perfect.
marries everything that I've been doing and want to do. And so I was fortunate enough that they moved me out to Nashville. I'd just gotten married. So my wife was done with New York as well. And so we both moved out to Nashville, and had this opportunity to, again, leverage all of my entertainment experience and my marketing experience and just ran with it. And ultimately I ended up serving as agency director at that agency, and really got to, run a marketing firm, but on somebody else's dime. So it gave me the opportunity to kind of learn and perhaps take risks that I, had it been my own money, I wouldn't have taken, but it was phenomenal. And ultimately that agency moved from Nashville to Raleigh. And so it became an opportunity, in essence, for me to continue on and kind of doing it on my own. And it was certainly a side hustle for a while.
What year was this? What time frame?
Roughly, I think 2015 or so, something like that. And so, it just kind of grew from there. I ended up trying to develop a product company called Ticket Tank. The concept of it was, if you are trying to buy tickets that are, let's say, not yet on sale or sold out, it was kind of like a wait list product that would send you to this wait list where you would be put in the tank, and you would you could buy to bump yourself up on the list, or you'd be notified when tickets do become available. Eventually, Ticketmaster actually created that as part of their native feature in their platform.
I thought you were going to tell me they came in and bought it for $500 million.
I wish that were the case. Now, although when I was at my former marketing agency, I did develop a really cool initiative that did beat out Live Nation and Ticketmaster. So I was first to market by about 6 months with a partnership with Uber, where, pretty commonplace now, where if you buy, tickets to an event or whatever, you may see an offer for a free Uber ride to that event. Yeah. And so this was the first of its kind thing. I had a friend that worked at Uber. Nice. And so developed that partnership where I integrated it with the ticketing company that owned the marketing agency that we, that I was working at. So that was the closest, I've come to beating those guys out, but man, they're the 900-pound gorilla in the room. So, yeah.
That's tough.
So that pretty much brought me to Bauer Entertainment Marketing, and man, I mean, it's just been a wild ride. I was looking at some of our year-end stats and things like that, and since 2020, we've grown nearly 300%. We've just had a massive boon in clients and team, and
even with
we're at
pandemic
24.
and everything.
Does what?
Even with the pandemic and everything,
which is just, it's like shocking. I remember vividly that like March 2020 meeting where I was just thinking about not necessarily what the hell do we do, but how do we keep momentum? Because we were already having a really strong year, and it was like we were getting a new client every week, and it was killer. And then, man, the rug was pulled out on us, and I really I came across in my research a really interesting article about I think it was the SARS pandemic, and it was talking about companies that had really shined and grew, and like kind of what did they do during that, and it boiled down to not being kind of reserved or just taking it, like going quiet, but in fact the opposite, trying to just be as helpful as possible and, present your brand actively during the time so that when things do come back, you'll be top of mind and trusted. And so that's what I did. It didn't matter if they were clients or just, others in the industry. I just, I put on webinars, I put on, just opened it up for just free consulting and talked to all these people that had just, lost their gig and were thinking about starting their own stuff or exploring other companies or whatever it was. I just, the mission for us was just to help. And then for our current clients, it was help by, mitigating a lot of their losses. So we were thinking about all the ways that their sponsors, for instance, who had, paid a lot of money to have an on-site event that was now postponed. How could they still get those impressions and how could they still get value from that investment? So we would come up with a bunch of digital opportunities and online opportunities for them. And so it's that, that kind of stuff that I think really, really helped us. It was certainly like, ups and downs for sure. Yeah. But at least it was trajectory going up. Right. And so we did a lot of live stream stuff, a lot of artist releases, that kind of thing. We also did have, at least one major live event that proceeded. It was a festival in Tennessee. It was an interesting balance of just trying to like present, an event that was still, adhering to safety precautions and then, making sure that, we could still, again, play that role of like giving people experiences that, that they need both kind of psychologically and for fanatics like myself physically. I mean, like when I got to hear live music again, I got choked up, man. I mean, it was just, I can't tell you how much I missed it.
That's something we've learned from this, all that there's this human aspect or this part of us that needs those interactions and to get out of the house once in a while and do stuff. Yeah. But no, it's actually really, if you look back at all the businesses in other industries too and stuff, the ones that have really done well in that time frame this whole time is those that have been able to adapt and been able to be innovative and to be able to help. I think turning kind of realizing this is the situation on the ground. Let's figure out how we can help our current clients, our current customers, because they're hurting, and they're probably, a lot of them were having a lot of issues. So you were the one to kind of come in and guide them to a better place. Yeah, it's kind of
I mean, we were very, very fortunate to not have kind of suffered like the majority has in our industry, and I mean, because nothing has been more shut down than live entertainment.
Sure.
And so to meander and find a way through all of that, and then have grown through all of that, and particularly at the rate that we had, it still blows my mind. I think it's such a testament to the team that we have, and just how they're fans first and how passionate they are, and I'm just really, really blessed.
Yeah, I mean, and some of us, are in industries that, if you're going to a place, if you're in some type of business where you have a location, you have to build stuff somewhere, all that stuff, having an agency, even for myself, the web design agency, we grew too, not quite 300%, maybe in the last year. But we were able to, I didn't know how that was going to go. It was pretty scary for a minute there. Like, the lucky thing for me is I was just kind of early on in the agency and I was kind of fluid anyway. But the kind of what you said, it was just doubling down, doing more, not just freaking out and hiding and like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? It's what more can we do? And Yeah, that's brilliant for sure. A lot of people could learn from that. And hopefully, even when you look in the restaurant industry too, it's the same thing. Those that survived, adapted. Those that didn't want to do have pickup orders and stuff, they probably didn't survive.
It was challenging having those because we work with restaurants as well, and some of their are like festival clients and things like that. And the conversation was from a lot of them was like, well, we're just gonna, we're gonna wait. We're gonna see how this plays out. I said, I tried to get them to hear. I was like, this isn't going to figure itself out. You're going to have to make some choices,
right.
and if you don't, it'll make the choices will be made for you.
Yeah, for sure. Market will let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and you see that. I mean, and you really see too. Kind of, it's laid bare what good a shape different businesses are in. Like if somebody does have a nest egg or a war chest to outlive those things, others may be living month to month and they didn't survive too. That they didn't even have the funds to try to figure out how to do it. And
on that note, I got some really great advice, a couple of years before this, which was around the accounting model profit first. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it helps combat the I guess the standard practice of, I've got my one bank account and I'm gonna just great, I got a bunch to spend because it's there, and you're gonna spend it because it's there, and the idea is that you have multiple bank accounts, and for your accounts receivable, you put it in one. And then you automatically send, roughly, let's say 10% to your profit account. You don't touch that, maybe till the end of the year. And then you have your other 10%, you put that in your taxes account. And then, you use that accordingly. And then, the remainder you typically put into your operating expenses. And that's what you have to use for your staff and your expenses and things like that. So I think that really helped us. It really helped us be conservative about things, but also know exactly what we had to spend on staff and try to make those those educated decisions.
Yeah, I do something similar. Like the taxes, putting that money aside every month, but yeah, it's you always got to have a game plan. Like, what if things do go south and what you hate to say it, like, who do you let go first? Where's that money going to come from? But yeah, all those things need to be planned out. I want to dig into something. We actually have a topic we wanted to talk about. Something you're good at and passionate about. But before we get into that, I want to I'm going to rewind a little bit. Just talk. First of all, I love music. I actually played trombone when I was a kid and through high school. So nice. I was in marching bands and wind ensembles, and I did solo stuff. And we actually marched at the Capitol. They have I don't know what it's called. They had some kind of contest at United States not the White House, but I think past the White House, like that whole in Washington. Yeah. And so all these marching bands every year, our year it was 80, and we got first place. So that's one of the things I'm excited about that I accomplished in my life.
Nice.
And that's a whole story in of itself too. We actually didn't think we won, because we knew we messed up at some point of the piece that we're playing, and we thought we lost the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, we're back at wherever we were, back at the hotel or whatever, and you started hearing people yelling, and it kind of trickled in, and we won. Oh, no, they didn't notice that we messed up. We recovered.
You're your worst critic. Yeah.
Nice. But no, and so like I said, I love music. We have that in common. But I never was in a band beyond that, though. I kind of gave up, unfortunately, after high school. I still have my mouthpiece. But one of the things that really stood out to me with your story, and this was very similar to somebody else. We just recorded an episode yesterday. She's an artist and painting and just watercolor type stuff. Sells originals and other stuff. But her whole life she's done art. It's been her whole thing. And I can't recall if it was her family was into art or it was just her, like since she was like 3. And I've talked to other people too who like they're a kid and they fall in love with some particular thing and they do that their whole life. And that's amazing in and of itself because you're authentic, you know who you are, you love what you do, and it meshes right into what you're doing today. But one of the other things that develops out of that, which the same with her, was your story, which you have this very unique story of your life, what you've done, and you can talk about music all day long. You've been in music. You've done all these amazing things that I've learned a lot about you today. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. That's like, how many of us have that dream to do that and never do that? But through all that, all at some point, like now with your business, your agency, that story is kind of baked into your brand. How that becomes kind of your brand, and how that makes you unique. And I've been to your website. You've weaved it into kind of your about, who you are, and I think you talk about ticket stubs or something in your about.
Yep. What's
that story?
I've got tons of shoe boxes and poster things, mural, whatever things on the wall that I put together of like all the ticket stubs that of events that I've attended for since the early 90s, and so
you saved all those. That's awesome.
Yeah, so saved them all, and I essentially, if you go to the page on our site, you can see how I equate some of those events to how they influence what we do for our clients and for our service, and I think it just emphasizes like, yeah, we're fans first, and that just like my experience having actually been in a tour van, touring around the country and slept on floors or whatever. Like, I get what what we're promoting here from a firsthand experience, and so, I think that's the lens of kind of how we're looking at service. I mean, folks from my team are from Warped Tour, from Live Nation, from Country Music Association, from all these things. They've got a wealth of similar experience where, because they're fans and it's a very lifestyle industry, it kind of weaves itself in one of the same. In a way, it's already crazy that we work at a marketing agency, in terms of work-life balance. But you throw in the mentality of the show must go on top of that. And it can get even crazier. So, I and a little off topic, but because it's so crazy, one of the things that I really emphasize, and also because of my background in psychology at school, is that I'm a real advocate and proponent for mental health, and we've got a very flexible work from wherever, whenever type of company, because I want to make sure that people have that opportunity for work-life balance, and we do things like mental health mornings, where once a month we provide a stipend for our employees that they can just take a morning off and get a massage or do yoga, whatever. So, anyways, I was getting a little off topic.
No, I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it says a lot about you too, though. Thanks. Creating a company like that actually cares about their employees and cares about mental health and all that, because it's super important, especially now with everything we've been through.
Yeah, and I think some of that stems from I've had many bosses over the years that were just kind of taught me what not to do. And so I've learned a lot from, my experience on the receiving end. And I never want to be like that. And so, I really try to create an atmosphere of mutual respect and we actually care about my staff, which I absolutely did not feel like I was ever cared about at many of my former jobs.
Yeah, well, and they probably appreciate you, and hopefully they tell you that too. I mean, I've heard I wish all bosses were like you from my employees. It's one in particular, right? Listen to this, but it's the best feeling because it's like you do care, and they see that, and that's not. It's not. I don't know if we would say it's not common, but there's a lot of companies that aren't like that, or bosses that aren't like that, or whatever.
And I'm curious, you may feel the same way, but at least from my perspective, I don't. I work for them. It's not. My job is to make sure that they've got the resources that they need, that they're feeling supported, that they are working in kind of this atmosphere of psychological safetiness, that that they can screw up and not be terrified that they're not going to have a job the next day. So 100%. If they make a mistake, they got to learn from it, and it certainly shouldn't be the same mistake over and over and over. But at the same point, it's you got to support them and make it's a reflection of me, I think, or similarly, like what I tell my managers, like if your intern or whatever is making errors, like look at yourself first, because maybe they didn't have what they needed in order to get that done.
Yeah, I mean, I've even gone as far as like one of the things this past year, as my team's growing too, is I've kind of instituted this, kind of learning atmosphere, or kind of that's baked into what we do now. And so if somebody's struggling with something, what can we do to help you get better at that, or provide you resources to learn, or give them a little bit more room to get that. It's like, you can, especially as somebody that's managing those people, you don't want to be like, what. There's a lot of managers be like, why can't you figure it out? What's wrong with you? Instead of trying to help that person, and helping them grow because I look at every employee, I want to see them grow in their role, and maybe their role expands and evolves over time. So
totally,
nurture
and I also know that nobody's an indentured servant, right? Like they're not gonna be with me forever. I want to make sure that they're like.
Right.
They should they, I kind of look at it as graduating, and if they move on and find something that, I want to support that journey, and, who knows, they may come back if they feel like it's not as what they expected.
All about relationships. Yep.
Yeah, totally. Especially, I would say especially in entertainment as well. I mean, it's a shockingly small industry, and your reputation is everything in this industry, in my opinion. And so it's just all that much more important to, just be a good dude.
Be a good dude. That's the takeaway of this whole episode. Be a good dude.
For real. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. So I am going to circle a little bit back to the story though. I think that's really, you talk about brands, or you read anything up on brands and stuff. It's the story behind the brand, or the founders, or whatever, that really drives a lot of. It's finding also your tribe, like who, with a bit like even my agency, like what's my vertical, who am I speaking to, and who can I speak to? Because there's things that I also am good at, and it's kind of my domain, and people that I work with, it's a mutual beneficial relationship because I understand what they're doing and vice versa. It's about finding, and by doing that, just like the artist I just talked to, she found her tribe because she decided, I'm going to be my authentic self. I want to be who I am. I'm going to talk about my story, and if people don't like it, they don't like it. I don't care about those people. This is my tribe. This is who I'm selling to, and or helping. And so I thought it was good to talk about that a little bit. But I think, I mean, stories.
I know that for what we do as a marketing firm, I mean, marketing is telling a story, and you got to know who you're telling your story to. Mm-hmm. And I find a lot of the times that it's glossed over by folks that we work with, that they don't. They also try to be everything to everybody, and without making those choices and the kind of the definitions of who their target audiences are. There's too much noise out there. It's going to get lost, and they're not going to, the message isn't going to land with the right person at the right time if they don't know who that is. So we run into that pitfall a lot.
Yeah, I'm talking to a marketing guy about his stories and brand and all that stuff, which you probably have a lot of insights on.
Totally.
And that's why you're doing it yourself.
Yeah. So, well, I love the concept of branding, like because it's an ongoing process, right? Where it's an action element where your brand, as I describe it to folks when I talk about this topic, is it's the summation of all the touch points, and because the larger you grow, the more touch points there are, the more potential perceptions there are of your brand. And it's so crucial with that branding process to make sure that all those touch points are as consistent as possible.
Right.
Because as they get inconsistent, then your brand becomes more discombobulated and ineffective.
Right.
The point of that branding process, and with that consistency, is to breed familiarity and expectation. And with that familiarity and expectation becomes a sense of comfort and trust. And nobody's going to buy anything if they don't trust what they're expecting to get. And right. So then ultimately, because they've gotten what they've expected, then they become loyal to that brand. And so it's just the ongoing, ebb and flow of, maintaining that consistency. And that's why you see hotel rooms, when you get a room at the Hilton, what to expect from that room.
Right.
And when you read those bad reviews, it's because they got something that they didn't expect. Oh, the shower was moldy, or I expected that my bed would be made and it wasn't, that kind of stuff. So that's the process that I think a lot of folks don't necessarily understand the value of branding.
Even in my little agency, I try to think about it. It's hard. You find it difficult to, I guess it depends on the size of the company and where they're at and stuff. But one of the things that it's kind of weird, if weird's a good word for it, to talk about yourself. Especially when you're talking about your personal story and stuff. And I talk a lot about it, and even if people I know see it and stuff, it's it's kind of weird that I'm talking. Why am I talking about myself? But that's part of building your brand. People have to get to know you, talk about your story, and it may feel awkward sometimes, but I feel like if I get that out there, I'm going to connect with somebody. My tribe. Tribe.
Well, I think it's personal branding for sure, and it may or may not be right depending on what your company is. For me in my business, I feel like it's crucial because we need to be authentic and very personal, and I want every client of ours to know that I am touching their business, whether I'm not everybody's point of contact or day-to-day project manager, but I'm certainly involved, at strategic levels and behind the scenes. We're discussing daily with the teams as to, how to then implement, certain things. But, I understand the level of it can be uncomfortable for folks, but, I don't know. I think I think when you're in an industry like the entertainment industry where it's so relationship based, like people want to connect with people, they don't want to connect with a logo.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's why it makes sense.
And you see that there's plenty of companies out there, even agencies, where there's a logo, but you don't see anything about the founders or who's actually who the team is or whatever.
Right.
And yeah, I think that reason alone is you're going to be less trusting of that company because you don't know who they are. So
totally.
You're selling yourself. Like I said, people are trusting you with their own brand and their own marketing and their own everything. They want to get to know you. Even a little bit. I do. Well, we say a little bit, but it's a lot of work for just what we do with social media and stuff. I've gotten clients who are like, they do a little bit of research online to see what you're all about and stuff. And I've had one person in particular is like, you're famous. I'm like, I'm not famous. I'm just on a couple different, but he did go in and he read about me, before he did business with me, really. So that's important.
Well, particularly in the B2B space, right? Like there is something like 95% of your website visitors are not going to be buying from you. And by the time they even get to that point, they've already probably researched you and done a lot of vetting before you're even going to have a conversation. And so, I have the conversation around social media, particularly with B2B companies a lot, or like B2B organizations where I'm like, part of whatever your funnel is, like, social media is not necessarily a discovery point as much for B2B businesses as it is a vetting. It's in more of the consideration phase. Like they want to go to your social pages to see, because they've already heard about you, they're aware of you, but now they want to see what's the culture like, what other clients are they working with? What would it be like for me to work with you? That's what they use social media for the most part.
Yeah. Even just a small example, like, so there's certain, like LinkedIn and Twitter is probably our biggest places. We do a lot of networking stuff too, but, like Instagram, we suck at. Okay, let's put it out there. We're terrible at Instagram. We've tried different things, but we are. This year we're doing some new stuff. We're focusing more on design there, just from our agency perspective. And but one of the purposes of it is not so much how many followers you have or how much engagement. It's when somebody's looking up our brand and they find our account there, they're going to be able to use that as kind of an indicator of who we are, what our brand's all about. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to pivot a little bit because we want to talk a little bit. This kind of ties, I guess, maybe a little bit into like conversions.
Absolutely.
And so let's we won't have to spend too much. We're already 45 minutes. We just talk all day. Let's just spend a little bit of time. One of the things you do, I would assume, is help optimize websites for conversions, or work with clients on conversions and stuff. What do you have to say on that?
I classify us as a conversion rate optimization agency.
Okay.
And CRO for short. We are very strong proponents of kind of looking at data and identifying the path with which a website visitor is experiencing the site and then ultimately converting either into an inquiry or a purchase. Mm-hmm. And some of the the results and the metrics that we see can be mind blowing. For instance, on average, every click required to buy from the time that they land on the landing page to enter their credit card, there's a 33% drop off with every click on average. So if you think about, going through your own process on your site and, okay, now I've landed and now I learn more and, what's this product? And, it's like if just a small percentage of those that could have potentially bought from you. And so it's streamlining that path. And we use the data to remove or identify and remove roadblocks in that funnel, take a look at what is working well but could work great, and then what is not yet implemented that could really help move the needle. So, yeah, it's really fascinating from, just an analysis standpoint and taking a look at a website from that perspective. And then it also, it's an ongoing thing where we leverage software that allows us to run tests, and we have had incredible success for some clients where we'll serve variations of the same web page. For instance, we'll have one that says buy tickets as the primary call to action, and then another version of that same web page will say find tickets. And then over time, we'll see, we'll serve that to 50-50. Over time, we'll see which one of those is driving more sales. And we can test things like, button colors and font sizes and images and anything that you can kind of think of. But again, my psychology, background, that whole consumer psychology, it's so incredible to see, oh wow, you shift, you put your testimonial section, just slightly above the fold of your website. Now you've just increased your conversion rates by 1-2%. And then in the aggregate, that's thousands and thousands of dollars off of just that tweak, Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, so it's interesting to see because there's multiple things that affect conversions, and I've maybe know a little bit about conversions too, but from my past, my internet marketing days. But it's interesting because, first of all, so that's on page, and once they're in your funnel, obviously the source of that traffic has an impact as well, the quality of that traffic and whatever's hitting your page. But yeah, what's always fascinated me, and I've used split testing tools, multivariate tools in the past, and to test elements on a page and all that stuff. Just the little subtle things, little subtle tweaks can like you said, can have a significant impact, and you add them all up over time, have a big impact. That's the same way with like AdWords or pay-per-click advertising. I split test ads. We split test 3, 4, or 5 ads at a time or whatever we were doing back then. And but it was like just changing a word could have a huge impact on the click-throughs or the conversions.
It's wild. And as I think about where the internet is going, where marketing is going, and particularly with the iOS update and Facebook ads being, less accurate and more expensive. It's about taking the traffic that you're able to generate and convert more of it.
Right.
Where you can, Facebook and ads, yes, I mean, they will be effective. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. But because of, first party data versus third party data and the ability to kind of target more, as accurately as we once had, it's going to be a little bit more of a casting a wider of a net and driving, more traffic to kind of your site. And you want to make sure that with all the money that you're going to be spending driving traffic to your site, that you're maximizing the amount of conversions from that traffic. And that's why I feel that CRO is it's the most valuable thing that it's just so underrated, particularly in entertainment. I think it's much more commonplace in retail, but in entertainment, it really needs to. We're trying to lead the charge.
It's good. It's a good thing. Yeah, I just did a website. We're still working on it, so we broke it into like 3 phases because the CRO, conversion rate optimizer, I think he calls himself. Yep. Had a huge laundry list of things, and it was like, and then let's prioritize that, and then it was more of an e-commerce site though, and but it's so much of it. And once you see it, it's like it's almost obvious sometimes. Like, of course, that's going to be better. Of course, that needs improvement. But yeah, it's super important, and I think. I just want to take a note about ads for a second. One of the other things with ads that I always thought was fascinating was that the quality of the traffic, it was like, or maybe it was probably more related to what you were targeting or like keywords or whatever. But I mean, you could change the ad copy or whatever to actually filter out a lot of people, and really control who is actually going to hit your site or click that ad. Like if you don't want all of them, you want to actually tighten it up a little bit and get the more quality ones. And that's fascinating too. But anyway, I'm going off site, but yeah.
I think you make a good point because we do the exclusion audiences regularly, and it's our approach with ads in particular is from a funnel perspective where we're thinking about the conversion funnel, and we have these top of funnel ads that are casting on it, but we purposefully exclude those that perhaps have already engaged or are familiar with the artist or event or team or whatever that we're promoting. So we're reaching incremental folks to feed them into this funnel, and then we're putting them into more of like the consideration phase with middle of the funnel, like maybe it's a enter to win type of contest or video view or Facebook event RSVP or something like that. And then bottom of the funnel is, all right, maybe you've added a ticket to the cart but haven't yet purchased, and now we're going to retarget you. And so then it's like, okay, now you're on the website. Really, you're much deeper, further along in the funnel. But from a conversion rate optimization standpoint, sometimes we'll take a look and like see the ads have a great click through rate, have a low cost per click. Like the ads are working, they're getting the right people to the site, but they're not converting and they're not buying. And so then that's a conversation around, well, what are the opportunities again for us to optimize these conversions? Is it price sensitivity? Is it not enough scarcity or urgency? Is it that there's just not a good product market fit, and we need to emphasize kind of the value perhaps? There's a slew of things that we just sort of know are the main offenders, but again, it's our process that we look at through that lens of conversion rate optimization.
And I just expect, I'm out of that world for the most part. I'm on the skirts because I build the sites. But so I was doing pay-per-click advertising back in like 2004, right? That's when I started for about a decade. And but over the years, the tools got better too. It's a lot of today. It's got to be amazing, like how much of it's got to be optimized and reporting, and how everything is tracked, and everything is really must have improved in recent years, especially with AI and stuff. Is AI having a large impact on what you're doing, or
somewhat?
More manual?
With our reporting, we've actually, so we went through a pretty intense process of vetting a lot of different dashboards, and all of our clients tended to have certain unique differences and needs in their reports. So it was hard to have the flexibility that we needed. And then I also ultimately found that if we were relying too much on, automated reporting, and just kind of pulling in the numbers and not taking the time to think about these numbers and what they mean, that we would become too disconnected and not be able to be as effective with our then resulting actions. Because all of our, decisions are really dictated by this data. And so I've kind of gone the opposite route of AI, where we're doing a lot of our reporting manually, but I'm willing to invest that energy, time, money, resource, into that, because again, I feel as though it gets us closer to our client. And it allows us to really not just say, oh yeah, we're seeing a spike in this number or whatever, but why? And us to think about it and have those conversations. And then I would also add that, like, we're in the unique industry where a lot of the sales conversion points aren't managed by our client. So you try to buy a ticket off of a venue and you're linking out to Ticketmaster, right? they don't own that domain, and therefore they can't really control the back end and sort of see from an advertising perspective, like, or digital advertising perspective, what's truly converting or not. You can to a degree, and we certainly have formulas and things like that we apply, but it's some of it's estimated, and so we need to be able to manually calculate some of that stuff.
We'll wrap it up here in a second. That's something that's really interesting, because what I was doing back in the day was mostly affiliate marketing. I had my own digital products and stuff. That was one of our biggest challenges, is because we could reach out to some merchants and they would be helpful enough to put some snippet of code on their landing page or something or whatever. But it was probably got rarer over time. But yeah, there's a lot of challenges around that. We could talk about this topic. We need a whole other episode for this.
we need a part 2. Yeah,
yeah, we need a part 2 for sure. But no, it's great having you on, though. It's like I said, you had a great story. That's one of the biggest takeaways for me. Like, when I love the people that have found great success, and it just seemed to, like, it's like it's blurred. The edges are blurred. Like their brand is them, and like it's super obvious why your vertical is entertainment, and why your story just resonates with your market and all that, because it's Brian. That's the guy. That's the drummer. That's like, you wouldn't be in some like other targeting with, if you had a chef, you were a chef in a past life, you'd be targeting restaurants, or
based off of my cooking, I know that not to be true.
Yeah, you'll never do that. Yeah. But it's interesting.
No, man, I appreciate it, and I think having your support and being able to work with you has been awesome, and definitely has contributed to kind of where we're at. So thank you for this. Thank you for that. Thank you for all of it.
You got it, man. Until next time.
Until next time.
That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already, and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. If you want to comment on this podcast or provide me with requests on topics for future episodes, please find your way to thebuilders.fm. You can contact me there or add a comment under these show notes. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.